All right, I want to let you guys in on a little secret. Everyone uses the word disruption way too much, especially in the media. But here today, I have two actual disruptors, and I'm talking about the FBI is getting involved, the police are involved, lawyers, maybe the mafia. So I want to talk about true disruption, innovation, and kind of walking up to that edge. And I think let's start. Both Shawn and Andrew started as hackers, old school hackers. Tell me those stories and kind of how that led to what you've built.
So I met Shawn online, which is kind of strange because I've known you for over 20 years. We were 15 years old, and we were in a hacker group called Woo Woo, and it was this sort of very deep crevice of the internet that was extremely hard to find, and it took a long time to sort of prove yourself to be worthy of being in this group called Woo Woo and getting the key and getting access. And when you found yourself inside after finally proving yourself for so long to get entrance, all you saw were people's handles. And I saw his handle as Napster. And so that was his hacker handle, and there was about 20 of us, and everybody was just doing deep research on security, internet vulnerabilities, and stuff like that. And we actually built relationships that were more intellectual based on security and stuff like that as like young kids. And we also used to try to figure out how to get MP3s, which was a very difficult thing. And this man right here figured out a much easier way to share music from this hacker group.
The crazy part about the Woo Woo story is that Andrew mentioned there's about 20 people. And in that group was Andrew, Sean Parker, Jan Koum, a bunch of guys who have gone on to build amazing cybersecurity companies.
Yeah, they built the internet. They're billionaires.
Yeah.
And it was all your bulletin board group.
Yeah, but it started from a very pure place. I mean, we think of hacking now, we think of, it's not that what it meant back then. Back then it was much more about exploring, and it was sort of a genuine curiosity and a desire to learn from each other. So we were all sort of attracted by that, and I think that's something that really lent itself well to entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and Shawn was 19 when Napster literally ushered in the whole streaming world that we know, disrupted the entire music industry. Tell me, we have amazing under 30s here. You were 19, and suddenly you were the target of a multi-billion-dollar industry. What lessons did you learn from that?
So to go back, this was 1999, so people were still paying for music. They were ordering CDs online, going to record stores. It was a very different world, and the internet was also very different as well. Like now we think about the internet's mainstream, we use social media, but back then it was much more of a niche thing. I would say it was Napster was the first reason for a lot of people to come online, to buy broadband, to access music. But it was also very controversial. It was very disruptive. If you put yourself in the position of the media companies, imagine a product comes out that's cheaper. Well, it was free, easier. It was easier to access the music. The selection was infinite. It had basically it was a full code red for the music companies, eventually for media companies in general. So, and then on top of that also, they were basically the gatekeepers of promotion and distribution. So for them, it was a complete seismic shift, and it was something that I think Napster was around for about 2 years, but the internet before and after was a very different place.
And Shawn was Andrew was Citizen. You decided to take on the entire safety apparatus, the entire policing apparatus. Tell me lessons you learned from that when you decided, I'm going to make basically a private, media police force.
So the objective was not to take on the police. I guess the result was taking on, public safety infrastructure. The objective was to create the ultimate safety. And what you see with Citizen today is a very, very watered down version of what it started as. It was originally called Vigilante, and it was never meant to have any sort of violent connotation. It was meant to have an active, you play a role in community safety. And the question is, if a child is kidnapped on this street right behind us, and there's all these people sitting at the Forbes summit, why wouldn't you know in real time about the kidnapping that the police are now working on, and the closest police officer could be 10 minutes away, and there's an entire group of people that could get involved, find the child, and make it impossible for the bad guy to escape.
Yep.
That was vigilante. So what we did is we democratized access to public safety information in real time so that you would be notified. It would say 200 feet that way, there's a child that just went missing, and we would make sure that that kid doesn't get away as a community together. The way we would do that is by live streaming, going live, and it was almost like a first-person shooter type interface where you had a map and then the bad situation was in red, all the good guys were in green, you can see all of the other people that are helping, so you basically joined in on this cause to find the missing kid. Now the result of that was the police felt very threatened by this.
Yes, I can see that, yes.
So that was not the original intention, but the police are now allies, but it was a rocky relationship to say the least.
Wow. Show of hands, how many founders do we have in the audience right now? All right, this is a big group of founders. We were talking backstage, guys, about, when you're creating something new, pushing to the edge, pushing to maybe a point of controversy, pushing to a point of, maybe rebellion from status quo. Give me some advice and tell me some stories about when you pushed your companies to the limits.
Well, the people that raised their hands, I would ask a follow-up question, which is how many of those hands that were raised think that you're doing something really, really crazy? Hopefully it's the same amount of hands. Yeah. If it's not, push harder, because the first thing is your objective should feel almost insane. If it's a sane objective, I would urge you to increase your scope and make it more ambitious. And the lesson, and what we were talking about backstage, is when you are doing something crazy, and it truly feels crazy in the moment, which is reinforced by everybody telling you you're crazy, lawyers telling you that you're going to be sued to oblivion. I mean, this man was sued for probably over $1 trillion based on the number of
I did the math. It was $100,000 per download, and it was billions of transfers. So it was $1 quadrillion, more money than exists.
It was how much?
$1 quadrillion.
$1 quadrillion. There you go.
So don't stop until you're being sued for $1 quadrillion. But what advice? You were saying you always wish you went further. Like Shawn was also one of the first investors in Uber, which obviously shook up everything from transportation to politics. When did you wish you went further? Like, give me some lessons when you guys pushed and maybe you went too far, or maybe you wish you went further. And that could be in Citizen, in Napster, in Uber. Give me some real life
The
situation.
story of when I first told you about the investment, but didn't.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think, there was a huge fear around people getting hurt with Citizen. So when you called me, and Andrew rang me, I don't think I'd spoken to you in about a year, calls me up, and he says, I'm working on something new, but I can't tell you what it is. And I'm like, you called me. And then all of a sudden...
Well, I felt bad not getting him in the seed round. You got to get your friends in the seed round. Always pay it forward.
He says, okay. All I can tell you is people could die. Well, then he hung up the phone.
Yeah.
He asked me, he goes, what can you tell me about it? I said, I can't tell you anything about it. I'm sorry. But I want to get you in the seed round. He goes, well, can you tell me anything about it? I said, I'll tell you one thing, but don't ask any more questions. And if you don't want to do it, I totally understand. He goes, all right, what is it? I said, people might die. And I hung up the phone. Now, we are friends, so he appreciated that, and he thought it was an excellent pitch, and he asked, where do I wire the money, and how much allocation can I have? So,
but I think like some of the challenges of Vigilante and then eventually Citizen, getting delisted from the App Store, having to work through the branding, I think conceptually there was this fear of what might go wrong, but I think the mission and what it's become is proven that, even though it was a little bit controversial at the start, even though we had to do some work to get it relisted, it was especially the first video that you guys did, which was like a Black Mirror episode.
Getting canceled or having the press lose their mind and try to destroy you usually is a green flag. Run faster. Like, that means there's a wave and you got to ride it. So don't fall off that wave. Run as fast as you can into the fire. That's when the greatest stuff happens. And like he said, I wish I ran faster. But the amount of people that said I would have blood on my hands was a little disturbing.
Yeah.
I mean, there were entire Reddit communities dedicated to like exposing my personal info, putting stuff on the dark web, telling everybody I was like going to be responsible for the collapse of public safety across America. Crazy stuff. But again, that's all like incredible validation, and you should not be scared of it. At the same time, it's extremely scary.
Yeah. The flak is loudest when you're over the target. I think you mentioned Uber. I feel like Uber is actually a really, I'm not sure Uber could have pushed much harder. I think maybe we'd have flying cars now.
Yeah.
But
Travis ran full speed ahead.
yeah. But early on, there were a ton of challenges. One that sticks out to me the most is for a while there were police stings going on where they were booking cars and then arresting the driver and impounding the car in a bunch of major cities. And a lot of that was the taxi mafia, the medallion system. There was a whole entrenched industry that was fighting against it every step of the way. So it was, again, didn't come without controversy.
Tell me what you tell yourself, like, starting a company is a scary thing, full of doubt. Then, like you said, you have lawyers, the police, the press screaming for your scalps. Tell me, like, what is the mindset to push through? How do you stay level? How do you push through that fear?
It's so scary. Like, I've had a documentary made about me where the former employees were dressed in chainmail with voice changers in gigantic rooms, afraid to expose who they are, which is, to me, the most insane thing in the world. So I guess they were more scared than me. But in the moment, it's incredibly scary. I was working from home during some of the, peak sort of cancel media post-COVID, and I was by myself in my house for some of this with reporters at my gate trying to come in, and it's very scary. But at the end of the day, you have to look at it. Entrepreneurship is a game. Most likely you're not going to get hurt. I mean, we don't really know anybody who's actually gotten hurt doing this, I don't think.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. But.
So it just feels that way.
I know so you say it's scary, there are people at the door. Like, what do you do for yourselves to get through it? I mean, Shawn, 19 years old, being sued for, $1 quadrillion. Like, how do you mentally get through it? Not only that, but you're still running a company, you're still building it. You're not just surviving. You need to keep on growing. Like, what is the mental exercises? Do you guys take care of yourselves? Are there certain rituals you do to kind of manage that doubt?
I mean, for me personally, I would take all that energy, all the noise, and direct it into working harder. And then also, for me, I find there are people that challenge you to think more deeply about what you're doing and understand, like, is this something that's actually good? Can we stand behind? Do we have conviction about what we're building when things get loud, when people get angry, when things start to change? Those people are really important. And for me, they often masquerade as a little crazy, like Andrew here.
Yeah.
We have this tendency to really spend your downtime thinking about what you're building, understanding, human nature, understanding your customers. There's a lot of extra energy and effort that goes into that. I think that gives you the armor to deal with it when the bullets start flying.
Yeah. How about you, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it is psychologically challenging. I'm not going to act like if it doesn't affect you, like, you're probably not authentically doing your mission. Maybe something accidental happened that you weren't intending. But when your mission starts to be realized and you realize that you're responsible for it, it's incredibly scary because, entrepreneurs don't think about the here and now. I'm always thinking about 10 years out. Like, what happens when 80% of, said third world country that's filled with crime and cartels and whatever else, that they're all using this and that totally changes the entire public safety equation, like, what happens? And, when you think through that, it can be very, very stressful to think about what you might be responsible for. And especially when you have, like, network effect driven products, a genie's coming out of the bottle, right? The whole idea is to get the genie out of the bottle. You don't always know what the genie's going to do.
Yeah.
It could be a good genie, it's a bad genie. You're responsible for maybe smacking the genie if it's bad, as opposed to blaming the genie and saying, I didn't know what I was doing. You really are responsible.
Speaking of that genie and viral, you guys are masters at creating viral companies, viral brands. Napster, Uber, Citizen. I mean, Andrew worked early on Facebook too. we have some amazing entrepreneurs out here. What are your viral tips? If you had to write like the 3 commandments of going viral, what would those be?
Number 1, give 0 Fs.
Okay.
You just gotta like think big, think huge, don't care, and when somebody says you're nuts, take it as a compliment. That's number 1.
I mean, for me, it's very selective on the things that I work on and invest in. So I feel like if you're really tackling a big problem, and as we mentioned, controversy over and over again, it will stir up, and that has a tendency to facilitate things going viral. If you're going after something big enough, and you're doing something really interesting, I think that's generally been my approach.
Oh, very cool. And speaking of viral, we got to keep it secret, but you guys are working on a side project together, getting the band back together, if you will. Tell me a little bit about how you're building a new startup that is going to be, consumer-based in this world of current tech, in this world of AI. Tell me a little bit, some tips about that.
Well, first of all, there's never been a more fun time to build in human history. Like what we are experiencing right now is one of the most fascinating things that we will ever see in our entire lives. I mean, I don't know if you guys have played with, Claude Design just came out, which is absolutely fascinating. The speed that you can move, the efficiency. When you think about thinking big, usually you had to have a team. I think that like you as founders, the amount of power that founders are about to have is going to become uncanny. Because really, we raise venture capital to build these teams, and we need these teams, and we create alignment. The size of the teams we need now has been radically reduced. And the efficiency, the decision-making, speed, all of that is accelerating faster by the week as the acceleration of AI takes off. And so the construction of companies are different. The construction of meetings are different. The construction of every single thing you do has to be rethought through why did we used to do things the old way, and what does this new way even look like? And what we're doing today, I think that even if you think you're innovative and you think you're on the bleeding edge of AI, I almost guarantee you're not. Because even if you're at Anthropic, you're not sure the power of what you actually have built and what this all means. And so it really is a democratized time where anybody could really charge ahead with an information advantage on how you're using AI to stay ahead. But that should be such a huge part of every single person's time right now, is understanding what this all means and pushing on it.
How about you, Shawn? This is like your fifth time around.
Yeah, I mean, it's remarkable. I mean, Andrew, you said it well. For me, I've been using Claude Code and now Claude Design. My workflow, it feels like, has changed weekly at this point. I feel like your point about getting as deep and paying as close attention and using these tools as much as you can, something that I personally experienced is the tendency to want, especially as these tools get better, to want to just one-shot everything. You can just spool up a business instantly. Staying close to the code, actually understanding underneath and to the work that the LLM is doing, and understanding the essence of what you're building, whether it's a side project or a business, is very important. It's very easy for us to start to hand over that control and that decision making. So I feel like that's something that's going to become increasingly more important.
Wow. All right, this went really fast. One more question. I want like a rapid fire answer of this. If you guys could get into a time machine, go back and meet your younger selves just before you became entrepreneurs and founders, what's the one piece of advice you'd give your younger self?
Enjoy the ride.
I would say it's the same thing you're going to hear over and over and over that you already know, but I think Steve Jobs said the number one job of a CEO is dodging bozos. Move as fast as you can when your gut says this person's wrong. That is the best advice in the world, because it all comes down to the people. One amazing 10Xer will take you all the way, and one person that's not the right fit will sink your ship immediately. We all move too slow on that. So that's something we still learn, even though we've done it over and over and over.
Andrew, Shawn, thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.